President Biden's remarks about Vladimir Putin made a splash in the international community, and a jury in Tennessee has found a former nurse guilty of criminally negligent homicide in the 2017 death-vacation.
Investigators found the apparent remains of a man missing since 2003 in a submerged creek, and the Biden administration is expected to unveil a new minimum income tax for billionaires. All this and more right here on WCTV.
And now, your 5 o'clock news on Channel 14.
Welcome back to Channel 14 News at 5. I'm Jared Weicker.
And I'm Rachel Pellegrino. Last Tuesday was Charter Day here at Waynesburg University. WCTV's Brock Owens caught up with the students and the president of the university at the Benham Dining Hall.
It's Charter Day here at Waynesburg University, and 173 years later, we're still coming together.
Events like this help build the Waynesburg community.
Community is the essential part of this university experience, and coming here and being a community and sharing just our mutual care for each other.
Lee also takes a Christian message from Charter Day.
I think it reminds us of our foundation, you know, the foundation of the Lord, and to take that moment and reflect about how God has sustained this university through the ages and produced great people that have gone out and made a difference in the world through their lives, to be lights in the darkness. You know, that day celebrates all of that.
But there's something else that takes the top spot for Lee.
Always a favorite part for me are the students, and I mean that sincerely. I just love being able to talk to the students, and they're so approachable.
But one thing continues to be synonymous with Charter Day.
Well, obviously Charter Day chicken. I thought I'd have to give it another try this year, since last year it was a little weird. This year it's a lot better. The breading was different and the sauce was a lot better and thicker. Yes, Charter Day chicken was the reason I came here.
Enjoying the chicken, Charter Day chicken. It's a great day.
Reporting for WCTV from Benham Dining Hall, I'm Brock Owens.
Last night, the Student Activities Board held a coffee house for students. Joe Venzel was there to cover the event.
Joe Venzel with WCTV here in Stover Campus Center, where Waynesburg has its annual coffee house, a Monday night event where live music and students can get coffee and listen to some tunes. Coffee House, an annual Monday night event for Waynesburg University, is held in the top floor of the Stover Campus Center, right in the middle of the Beehive, where students usually get their food, but around this time they have time to relax, kick back, and listen to some music. Josh Hughes and Jess Oakes kept the music rolling with live music, Jess on guitar, with Josh also on guitar, and both of them having amazing vocals. I sat down with Josh to talk about performing and what it means to perform at Coffee House live, and for all the students to give themselves a little bit of relaxation.
Yeah, live performance has always been pretty fun for me. It's just a kind of nice place to sit down and just play some music. I've always been more musically inclined. Just kind of been a passion of mine since probably like middle school. I really picked up like once I got out of high school and in college. So it's just fun to kind of have all the friends there and have everybody here. Just give them some background music so they can study and just kind of provide the atmosphere.
With Josh being a natural performer, you can't forget about his love for music.
I connect a lot of different things in my life with music. I have probably way too many Spotify playlists of random stuff, so just anything about music just is really kind of touching for me. So
for live music while you study, make sure to visit Coffee House in the Beehive every Monday night, 8 to 10 p.m. I'm Joe Venzel for WCTV.
The Bowlby Library held its monthly Cosmos Bingo event last Friday. Darren Allensworth has more on how the event went.
On Friday, March 25th, it was a bingo night at the Bowlby Library, and boy, was it a treat. Local families and students all came for the opportunity to relax and play some bingo. Instead of using the usual chips or markers, the players used daubers to fill up their bingo boards. Winners were allowed to pick from a variety of prizes, and special prizes were given for the winners of later games. First-timer Tawny, who was there with her family, won the grand prize at the end. Tawny was able to share the moment with her granddaughter, and for her, it
It feels really good.
Youth Services Director Megan Ely called the numbers for bingo, and to her,
it's such a blast, especially after COVID when no one was able to come in and do these, and we were doing virtual bingo. So it's such a reward to see all these people come in. We had, I believe, 34 tonight, and that's probably our highest number so far. So it was a true blessing.
For Channel 14 News, I'm Darian Allensworth.
That's all we have for local and campus news. When we come back, we'll have news from around the nation. Evacuations are underway in the city of Mariupol, Ukraine, as Russian attacks continue. While visiting Poland over the weekend, President Joe Biden's remarks about Russian President Vladimir Putin caused a global reaction. Chris Wen has the latest on the war and how the White House is clarifying President Biden's unscripted remarks.
As Russia intensifies its missile strikes on Ukrainian cities in the west and the east, heavy fighting also continues in the south, where the mayor of the port city of Mariupol has called for a complete evacuation of the remaining population. A weeks-long siege by Russian forces has flattened the city, leaving an unknown number of civilians dead and forcing hundreds of thousands of people from their homes. Intense fighting also continuing in the suburbs of Kyiv, as Russian forces attempt to establish a corridor around the capital to block supply routes, according to a Ukrainian defense official. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's ready to accept a neutral, non-nuclear status as part of a peace deal with Russia, but any agreement would have to be put to the Ukrainian people in a referendum.
This was the first point of principle for the Russian Federation, as I recall. And as far as I remember, they started the war because of this.
Meanwhile, President Joe Biden triggering a political storm after going off script during a speech in Poland.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
White House officials and Biden himself now trying to downplay the remarks, saying he was really arguing that Vladimir Putin can't be allowed to exercise his power over neighboring countries.
It was expressing my outrage. He shouldn't remain in power. Just like, bad people shouldn't continue to do bad things. But it doesn't mean we have a fundamental policy to do anything to take Putin down.
In Washington, I'm Chris Wynn reporting.
A nearly 19-year-old mystery may finally be solved in Pennsylvania after investigators found the apparent remains of a man missing since 2003 in a submerged creek. Joe Holden spoke to a member of the dive team who helped with the recovery.
For the first time in more than 18 years, daylight shines on an SUV pulled from the depths of the Darby Creek. It's hoped clues about a decades-old cold case will also be unearthed. Divers with Adventures with Purpose assisted investigators in securing the vehicle in what they described one of the most challenging recoveries they've encountered, 24 feet down below the surface of this murky creek.
What was the state of the SUV when you got to the bottom of the creek?
For a vehicle that's been submerged underwater for 19 years, it was actually in really good condition. Luckily, the suspension was silted in, sunk in the bottom, so it, in a way, preserved it.
Earlier this month, a submerged car was located using a combination of sonar and other sophisticated technology. At that time, skeletal remains were also discovered. All signs and circumstantial clues point to it being James Amabile, a man reported missing in December 2003 when investigators say he called a babysitter to report he was running late and picking up his two daughters. The plates on the SUV matched Amabile's. Extracting it proved more challenging than could be imagined. Divers say when the docks at the Ridley Township Marina were built more than a decade ago, A supporting pylon was driven through the engine block of the SUV, pinning it to the creek bed.
Luckily, through the family and some local companies here, Pro Crane stepped up big time. They brought in a $3.5 million crane, donated all of their services. They had about 15 guys out there, and with them and us, we did it all free to the Ridley Township.
Forensic examiners will now determine if the body is definitely Amabeel's. Police say this discovery could finally bring closure to a family that's been searching for answers for 2 decades.
A jury in Tennessee has found a former nurse guilty of criminally negligent homicide in the 2017 death of a patient. Charlene Murphy had been hospitalized at Vanderbilt University Medical Center for a brain bleed. Redonda Vaught was on trial for accidentally giving Murphy the wrong medication, leading to her death. Murphy was supposed to get Versed, but was instead administered the paralytic drug Vecuronium. The hospital fired Vaught in the months following Murphy's death, but the legal process took much longer to play out. Vaught spoke to reporters Friday.
Nothing that the district attorney said yesterday is worse than anything that I've said to myself. So, number one. Number two, it's been 3.5 years waiting for this process to be done within the legal system, and so I am very happy that that part is just over with.
In addition to criminally negligent homicide, the jury also found Vaught guilty of gross neglect of an impaired adult. The Tennessee Board of Nursing revoked her license last summer. She will remain on bond until her May 13th sentencing. The Biden administration is expected to unveil a new minimum income tax for billionaires Monday. According to the White House, the plan is part of President Biden's budget proposal for fiscal year 2023. The billionaire minimum income tax would require households with more than $100 million to pay a rate of at least 20% on their full income. Supporters say it would make sure that wealthiest Americans no longer pay a tax rate lower than teachers and firefighters. Sources say the additional revenue could help fund green energy programs and lower the cost of prescription drugs ahead of the midterm elections. The next round of talks aimed at ending Russia's war on Ukraine are set for Tuesday in Istanbul. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says there is something notable about the fact that these discussions are taking place in person versus the video conferences that have been held for the previous several talks. But still, many remain pessimistic that President Vladimir Putin is willing to end the attacks on Ukraine until he gets what he wants. He has previously demanded that Ukraine must disarm and must become a neutral country and must recognize the, quote, independence of the Donbas region. CNN spoke earlier with the chief diplomatic advisor to Ukrainian President Zelensky and asked if Ukraine will give up any of its territory if that's what it takes to end the violence from Russia.
The general position is really we do not trade any inch of Ukrainian territory. But yesterday, my president, acknowledged that in order to immediately stop the war and to have an immediate ceasefire, an immediate withdrawal of Russian troops, we are ready to agree to withdraw Russian troops to the positions they had before February 24th. That means some parts of occupied Donbas and the occupied Crimea, because some of Russian troops came from these areas as well, besides breaking the Russian border, breaking the border with Belarus. So yes, in order to stop the war, and my president told that it's absolutely of necessity for him to stop killing people, to stop people dying. That's much more important than any other matters else. So yes, theoretically it's possible again. But again, immediate ceasefire should be the beginning of any possible negotiations, any serious negotiations.
Walmart plans to stop selling tobacco products at some of its stores in the U.S. A spokesperson for the world's largest retailer says it made the decision after looking into tobacco sales. Walmart did not say how many stores will stop stocking the products. According to the Wall Street Journal, the company is removing cigarettes from stores in various markets, including some locations in California, Florida, Arkansas, and New Mexico. The Journal reports the stores will replace cigarettes with other products like food or candy and more self-checkouts registers. Federal authorities are now offering a $10,000 reward for help with the case of a missing Nevada woman. The FBI announced the reward on its website. Agents are looking for an 18-year-old Naomi Irion, who was abducted from a Walmart parking lot in Fernley earlier this month. They say surveillance video shows a man approaching Irion's car, then driving away in her vehicle. Investigators found the vehicle near the store 3 days later. 41-year-old Troy Driver is being held on kidnapping charges in connection with Irion's disappearance. He was arrested on Friday. A California parole board has approved the release of a 70-year-old man in prison for one of the largest mass kidnappings in U.S. history. Frederick Newhall Woods was approved on parole during a hearing Friday. The parole board will conduct a 120-day review of the decision. After that, California Governor Gavin Newsom can reject the grant or allow it to stand. Woods and 2 other men kidnapped 26 children and their bus driver in Chowchilla back in 1976. The kidnappers put the children and bus driver in a moving truck, then buried them alive in a quarry. They demanded $5 million ransom for their release, but the captives escaped after 16 hours underground by digging themselves out. All 3 men pleaded guilty to the crime. The other 2 men have since been paroled. Woods is the last one still in prison. This case apparently inspired by a plot point in the famous Clint Eastwood movie, Dirty Harry. A major highway in Pennsylvania was shut down Monday after a crash resulted in a massive pileup involving about 40 vehicles. Officials blame a snow squall for the accident on Interstate 81 that caused injuries severe enough for about 20 people to be taken to hospitals. No fatalities have been confirmed. Several tractor trailers were involved and some vehicles caught on fire. More than 24 fire departments are working on the scene in Schuylkill County. Authorities used buses to transport motorists who were involved in the accident but not injured to a reception center. That's it for national news. Coming up next, we have Darian Allensworth with your weekly business and entertainment update. But first, let's go to Brock Owens outside with an update.
It's definitely not as skin numbing out here as it was yesterday, but it's about 42 degrees. The sun is shining, but make sure you're strapped in because the rest of the week is going to be a roller coaster. Stay tuned here on Channel 14. I'll have a 7-day forecast for you coming up.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Darian Allensworth with your business and entertainment update. New York University is honoring Taylor Swift this spring. NYU announced it was awarding the singer with an honorary doctorate of fine arts in May. She will also deliver the commencement address during the class of 2022's graduation ceremony on May 18th. There will also be another ceremony for the class of 2020 and 2021 that same day because they were postponed due to the pandemic. NYU previously offered a course on Swift's work, but she had no direct involvement with the curriculum. No matter what web browser you use, it's likely you'll need to update it as soon as possible. Google first announced a dangerous vulnerability in its Chrome browser last week. It's already known to hackers, and Google hasn't issued a fix yet. The company has announced an emergency update for its billions of Chrome users, but it could take several days to roll out. Microsoft confirmed Monday the same hole exists in its Edge browser. That's because, like many browsers, Edge uses Google's open source Chromium code to run. Microsoft has issued a patch that is already available for Edge users. Samsung's browser, Amazon Silk, Brave, Opera, and others are also probably open to the same exploit. Brace yourself for large crowds and higher airfares this spring 2022 travel season. Experts are blaming high demand and skyrocketing jet fuel prices. In today's Consumers Watch, a look of the spring 2022 travel trends and why you may want to book summer flights now.
The spring break travel season is on, and experts say expect higher crowds and pricier airfares.
Jet fuel is costing more, and airlines do have that major expense to pass down to consumers.
Last month, average airfare in the U.S. went up 5% compared to 2019 levels, according to an analysis by the Adobe Digital Economy Index, which analyzed online sales from 6 of the top 10 U.S. airlines.
You need to be quicker and more aggressive to grab good fares when they come up, because they're going to be fleeting.
Travel expert Willis Orlando from Scott's Cheap Flights says the ongoing conflict in Ukraine is partly to blame for those soaring prices. Earlier this month, Delta Airlines indicated ticket fares could rise by as much as 10% to offset the sharp increase in jet fuel costs. Orlando says the conflict is also rerouting demand towards domestic and short-haul international destinations.
Folks who were thinking of going to Paris are now turning around and saying, no, I'm going to Cancun. So you're not going to be alone. You're going to be fighting for other folks for those fares. You're going to see bigger crowds, bigger waits for things. You're going to see higher prices for hotels and the like.
The war also delaying what airlines hoped would be the return of travel to Europe this summer. Orlando says it's spooking many away from overseas travel. And with lower demand, it could create an opportunity.
That should mean that we see some more fare sales, lower prices as airlines try to get those tickets sold.
For today's Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
This comes as the CEOs of 10 airlines and cargo carriers are asking the Biden administration to drop the federal mask mandate and the testing requirement for international travelers. Earlier this month, the CDC extended its transit mask mandate by 30 days until mid-April. The 94th Academy Awards are in the books. There were no big surprises, at least in terms of who took home trophies. But the evening's most memorable moment had nothing to do with an award. David Daniel has the highlights from Hollywood's biggest night.
I'm out here. Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow. Wow.
It was the slap seen round the world after Oscars presenter Chris Rock made a joke about Will Smith's wife, Jada. Smith returned to the stage to claim the Best Actor Oscar for King Richard, with a speech that seemed to encompass both his on- and off-screen roles.
Richard Williams was a fierce defender of his family. I'm being called on in my life to love people and to protect people and to be a river to my people.
Jessica Chastain won Best Actress for The Eyes of Tammy Faye and summoned her character's trademark love and compassion for LGBTQ people.
For any of you out there who do, in fact, feel hopeless or alone, I just want you to know that you are unconditionally loved for the uniqueness that is you.
Al Pacino, Francis Ford Coppola, and Robert De Niro drew a standing ovation, capping a tribute to the 50th anniversary of The Godfather, while show hosts Amy Schumer, Wanda Sykes, and Regina Hall took the usual shots at politicians, the nominees, and the industry.
This year, the Academy hired 3 women to host because it's cheaper than hiring one man.
Several winners made Oscar history, including Troy Kotsur, named Best Supporting Actor for his role in Coda.
This is dedicated to the deaf community, the Coda community, and the disabled community. This is our moment.
And Best Supporting Actress winner Ariana DeBose from West Side Story.
A queer, openly queer woman of color and Afro-Latina who found her strength in life through art. There is indeed a place for us.
Billie Eilish is the first Oscar winner born in the 21st century, winning Best Original Song. And Jane Campion became the 3rd woman and the 2nd in 2 years to win Best Director.
I love directing because it's a deep dive into story, yet the task of manifesting a world can be overwhelming.
That was The Power of the Dog's only Oscar win out of 12 nominations, while Coda went 3 for 3. In addition to Kotsur's win, Sean Hayter won Best Adapted Screenplay, and the small film about a child of deaf adults won the night's biggest prize, Best Picture.
You guys have made such a wonderful and loving family on screen, but also off screen, and everybody want to be a part of it.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Coda is the first film from a streaming service, Apple TV+, to win Best Picture. Dune was the night's big winner with 6 Oscars, including Best Cinematography and Visual Effects. Other winners included Belfast for Best Original Screenplay, Encanto for Best Animated Feature, and Japan's Drive My Car for Best International Feature Film. That's all we have for business and entertainment. Coming up next, we have Riley Holsinger with your sports report.
TV, where we aim to bring you the best local coverage of what you care about most. Everything from local businesses to hometown sports and the latest weather. We're keeping up to date with what you need to know about issues that affect our campus and our community. We're telling the stories that matter, celebrating our past, our future, and our potential. So tune in for all the latest buzz right here on WCTV Channel 14, Waynesburg.
Hello and welcome to New York Channel 14 Sports Report. I'm Riley Holsinger. It was a pretty quiet week for Waynesburg sports. The one team that hasn't been quiet is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Sunday was a great example of how explosive the team has been lately. Evgeny Malkin returned from illness to suit up against the Detroit Red Wings, and boy, he was dominant. Malkin didn't score just once or twice, but the 33-year-old skated off the ice with his 13th career hat trick. Malkin wasn't the only one getting into the fun. 8 other Pens players scored, including Sidney Crosby and a lot of Sid's kids. The Penguins jumped out to a 6-0 lead and ultimately won 11-2. Pittsburgh takes on the New York Rangers tonight at 7. The Waynesburg University football team announced that Gabe Lavara will become the new offensive coordinator. Lavara comes to the Yellow Jackets with a very experienced and impressive coaching resume that features stops as an offensive coordinator at Robert Morris, Albany, Frostburg State, Ithaca, and Duquesne. Last season, Waynesburg ranked 8th in offense in the President's Athletic Conference. Moving over to Waynesburg game updates, a lot of games were either canceled or postponed this past week due to weather. Well, speaking of postponements, the baseball team was scheduled to play yesterday and today, and those games have been pushed back to a later date. The team is scheduled to play this Friday afternoon at 3 in Grove City. The softball team ran into the same misfortune as they weren't able to play any games this past week. Waynesburg hosts Teal on the diamond this Sunday in a doubleheader. The first game starts at 2. The Yellow Jackets track and field team lucked out as they were able to compete in the Bethany Invitational on Saturday despite cold, windy, and even snowy weather. Waynesburg did a little bit more than just bracing poor weather conditions. They dominated through them. The women's team finished 3rd out of 14 teams, and the men's team placed 5th out of 12 schools. Michaela Rose dominated on the women's side by finishing 1st in the 200-meter dash and 4th in the 100-meter dash. Rebecca Dolce had another great showing with 3rd place finishes in the discus and shot put. Jerry Forelli led the Waynesburg men with a runner-up performance in the javelin, and Kai Herbert did a little bit of everything as he aided the 4x1 team getting 2nd, placed 4th in the 110-meter hurdles, 6th in the high jump, and 8th in the 200-meter dash. Waynesburg heads up to Slippery Rock this Saturday to compete in the Dave Labor Invitational. That's all for sports. Stick around to Channel 14 News for your full weather report with Brock Owens.
Hey, I'm Brock Owens, and here's your 7-day forecast.
It's not nearly as cold today as it was yesterday, but the high is still only 45 degrees with a low of 29. There's still a chance of a little bit of rain tonight, but the morning could see a dusting of snow. But it will go from snow in the morning up to a high of 73 degrees and a low of 58 tomorrow. We shouldn't really see much precipitation. Moving into Thursday, the temperature remains up at a high of 69, but there's a high chance of rain throughout the day. Thursday night, the temperature will drop back down to 38 degrees, but don't get too used to that warm weather because it's not going to be coming back up for Friday to start out April. It'll be a 42-degree high and a 27-degree low, and yes, there is a chance of snow, and no, this isn't an April Fool's joke. The rest of the weekend should be a little more modest with a high of 54 and low of 34 on Saturday and a 53-degree high and 27-degree low on Sunday. And neither day should really have any precipitation. Next week starts with much of the same with clear skies and a 51 as a high and 29 as a low. And next Tuesday might be a little bit cloudy, but it shouldn't be too rainy. The high looks like it'll be 58 along with a 33-degree low. That's your Channel 14 forecast, but it's certainly going to be a roller coaster over this next week, Rachel and Jared.
Thanks, Brock. And yeah, it's Pennsylvania weather. Gotta love it. One day sunny and warm, the next cold, maybe some snow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's already spring with the weather we're having right now with the up and down fluctuations of warm and cold. But that's all we have time for today on WCTV Channel 14. Make sure to tune in every week live at 5.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.